All right, so it looks like the registrations and or attendees joining have somewhat leveled off. So I think it's safe to get started. And for those that join us late, I'm sure they will be able to catch up here with us. So thanks again for joining us. Hello, everyone around the world for our next webinar. And you see it here on the slide. Today, we're going to be talking about CloudPBX, the ever so popular. I know many of you offered this service, obviously, and we want to share with you a new way of handling, managing, and provisioning CloudPBX services. So today on this session, I'm joined by two of my colleagues. They've also been at PortaOne for a very long time. I'll let Dmitro and Sergey later on tell you themselves how long they've been with PortaOne. So I'm joined with on the session here with Dmitro Lavignac, our senior business analyst, and Sergey Kirik, our project manager and professional Boomi developer. And let's take a look at the agenda for our webinar. And also just to summarize briefly a bit of housekeeping. So obviously the microphones are muted. You will have a chance later on in our Q&A session at the very end to ask your questions. And here is what we'll be talking about today. So we'll take a look first at some of the common challenges that customers raised in some of the interviews we've done in regards to CloudPBX provisioning. And then we'll actually, a large portion of today's webinar will not so much be here presenting, but rather actually demoing. So I'm sure that will be appreciated by many of you. And we'll also have a couple live polls sprinkled throughout. And so if you would be so kind to participate in those live polls, it would be much appreciated because it does give us very valuable feedback. So before we jump in, I actually just wanted to briefly tell a little story actually about how this CloudPBX wizard came about. So a little bit of a behind the scenes, if you will, because I think it's a pretty interesting story. Believe it or not, it wasn't actually this onboarding wizard to help you provision CloudPBXs. It wasn't really envisioned to be a standalone product per se that we sort of developed on our own, but rather as part of the recreation or redevelopment of the self-care interfaces for CloudPBX. It was actually voiced in customer interviews. So many of you that we've interviewed for our self-care portal voiced it that not only would a self-care portion for customers be needed, but also some sort of help to provision the actual CloudPBXs. So the very first start. So it just kind of shows you that, you know, we're very much keen to hear that sort of feedback and obviously then act on it. And then even once we got the feedback, even then, it wasn't actually done through the regular channels, if you will, but it was almost like a garage project within PortaOne. So we wanted to see how far we can push things, and we were in some sense surprised ourselves how well and how quickly we were able to pull something together with Boomi as the enabling technology in the background. So some of the common challenges that we heard from you that we interviewed is that it oftentimes takes quite a long time to do the provisioning of CloudPBX services. So when a new customer onboards with you and they want to sign up to your service, it can take quite a long time to actually get them going for them to start using your service. And then, of course, at the moment, there is a requirement for that person that builds the PBX or that creates the PBX for your customers. They have to know PortaSwitch, so they'd have to be trained. They need to know what they're doing. So it does require a highly skilled resource to provision these cloud PBXs at the moment. And then, of course, the third item that we identified that really is a tricky one as well is no onboarding workflow is like the other. So there are a lot of custom workflows. Everyone has their own integrations that you may need to do either for fulfillment or number porting or CRM or ordering. So whatever that might be, it is not a cookie cutter approach, and it is usually quite custom. So those are the three things. And we're going to touch on these in our demos here to see how we can help you answer these challenges. So, but first, I'd like to ask you something here in our live poll. And let me just get started with the poll here and launch that. You see already the question, and I'm going to read it out just in a second for the recording later on. So what is the major challenge that you and your resellers face when provisioning a new cloud PBX? Is it mostly the time to market? So is it a speed thing that it just simply takes so long? Is it a skills shortage so that you're dependent on someone trained in PortaSwitch to do the cloud PBX provisioning? Or is it a complexity, meaning that it's not as simple as setting up the PortaSwitch configuration, but then there's also third-party integrations oftentimes involved that you'd have to deal with? Or is it something else? And I mean, obviously we cannot really capture the something else here, but if you'd be so kind, I think it would be great if you could provide more feedback later on. We'd very be interested in what the other is. Now, the second question, and I see you can actually answer all of the question in one go. How long does it take to provision a single cloud PBX? So is it something that you've managed to already automate completely? So is it instantaneous? Does it take maybe 1 to 2 hours, 2 to 4, or does it take more than 4 hours? And the third question, how many cloud PBXs do you think you're able to provision daily? So this is not asking how many you currently provision, but it is asking how many do you believe is your capacity to provision if there was a lot of demand. Is it 1 to 2, 3 to 6, 7 to 10, or is it more than 10? And I see a lot of answers coming in, so really appreciate it here. I'll give you another minute or so to answer the polls, and then I'll show you the results here as well before we move on in the next section. Okay, so it seems most of you have managed to answer. So I'll end the poll here. And I'm going to share the results so that you can see that as well. So it does seem like the complexity for the first question is one of the primary challenges. 1 to 2 hours seems to be 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 hours seem to be by far the biggest ones here, and how long it takes and how many cloud PBXs are you able to provision. So 1 to 2 as a capacity. Okay, very interesting. Thank you. Thank you so much for participating in this poll. We'll have a second one later on, but before we do, I want to pass the microphone over to my colleague, Dimitro, and he'll be introducing the Cloud PBX onboarding wizard and what we're about to see. There you go, Dimitro, please.
Thanks, Klaus. Hi, everyone. Those who don't know me, who haven't met me, my name is Dmitry. I'm a senior business analyst at PortaOne. Klaus asked me to tell you how long I have been with PortaOne. It's about 5 years. And I've met many customers so far, and I was the one who was engaged in those interviews Klaus mentioned when we discussed pain points that our customers face while onboarding their Cloud PBX customers. Let me actually Klaus, can you please release screen sharing so that I can share mine? Yeah. So today we would like to introduce you to the new CloudPBX onboarding wizard. This is actually the tool meant to save your time, free up most experienced engineers on your end, and increase your efficiency as the operator. Typically, we were told when it comes to Cloud PBX onboarding, it's all about data migrations. In 99% cases, new Cloud PBX customer comes with existing setup. We mean that they already have some extensions and phone numbers and different sort of rules on some legacy system, and typically operators have to move the data around from one system to another, and that was the biggest challenge for them, right? So this is where we were told that there is a high demand for a tool to provision these Cloud PBX related settings by either administrator from the communication service provider and by their reseller, or even by customer themselves. We were told that sometimes operators even want to offload this job, this task, to end customers so that they can easily provision their Cloud PBX settings themselves, right? Which can definitely free up engineering resources. Then another problem that we've heard of was the concept of packages. And when it comes to online signups, typically customers sign up for certain configurations. These are purchased configurations that make sense both to the customer and sales team. Like examples we saw before of packages like small medium enterprise, which allows up to 10 extensions, 5 TD numbers, 2 hand groups at a flat monthly fee, and customers can easily sign up for such services that is understood by them. I mean, the concept of package, and that can be easily marketed, right? So the tool we are going to present today also solves this problem, how you can control Cloud PBX packages, right? So we were able to identify most typical end-to-end flows that the operators across the world have when they provision a new Cloud PBX environment or Cloud PBX instance. Some operators, first of all, use quoting mechanisms or online portals or CRM to provision their customers, and then they need a handy tool which will allow them to provision PBX services too, right? That will activate billing and service on the customer's end so that they can immediately use Cloud PBX, be charged, so that you've got revenue coming, right? And our live demos today will be based on these typical end-to-end flows. So we can speak about most common 3 scenarios like shown. First of all, it's provisioning of a new Cloud PBX instance from an order. The order can be placed by your customers online. Many our customers implemented own order management where customer can place an order online, and then you can capture this order, and this order can contain details about Cloud PBX configuration that the customer has just signed up for, right? So the second scenario is about provisioning a new Cloud PBX instance from a template. Even if you don't have a quoting mechanism or order management system, you would like to scale up, and instead of creating a new Cloud PBX instance from scratch, you can use a certain template so that all customers more or less can fall into different categories like small, medium, large enterprises, professional, and then provisioning can be done accordingly. And the third scenario we were like told about during our interviews was a provisioning of cloud PBX services for an existing customer. Many customers I know use their own CRM system, which creates customer records and portability. And this could be SAP, this could be HubSpot, this could be Salesforce, so that the customers then only need to activate services for these existing customer records. Another example would be customer who already uses your data services but would also like to sign up and activate the cloud PBX. So we are able to solve this issue using our new tool as well, right? And now it's actually a demo time. I'll demonstrate all the three scenarios one by one. The first one is provisioning of a new cloud PBX from an order. Let me
And
switch.
also, sorry
Mhm.
for me to jump in. I just want to mention, Dima, just very briefly, for any of you that have questions, feel free to ask questions throughout via the Q&A pod, and we'll answer and we'll get to these questions then at the very end.
All right, thank you, Klaus, for reminding. So let's imagine a situation where your customer just placed an order and they sign up for new services, selecting their Cloud PBX package online, and then your order management system can identify that order by a certain ID, by a certain token, so that this token can be like handed over, returned to the customer, so that they can, complete provisioning of their pre-purchased Cloud PBX instance themselves. So this is the UI where the customer or reseller or even your junior personnel can enter the token returned by the order management system, right? Over here, just enter a long string which identifies the order. And then our engine will actually do the trick. So let me search for the order. Meanwhile, the backend will query the order management system about customer details, who's that customer is, what they have purchased, and so on and so forth. So you see some fields have already been populated, pulling the customer details from the order, like customer or company name and billing address. The order even contains details about the sales agent responsible for that customer, right? So we also will be able to assign your sales rep so that we can even calculate commissions and whatnot. And then the customer can submit missing details about themselves if the order doesn't contain any, like this could be an email, for instance, right? Okay, cool. And then we are moved to other portions of the provisioning process where we are able to select DAD numbers. For instance, if you have an inventory of DAD numbers, customers are able to select numbers from stock. Like we see now the list of DADs from PortaSwitch inventory. Let me pick some numbers from the stock, right, and provision them, reserve under this customer record. And you see, I'm not able to place an order for more than 5 because the order limits it up to 5 DAD numbers. So I'm only able to select 5 numbers. This is how you control Cloud PBX packages from this tool, right? And then we reserve these 5 numbers for this customer, and we proceed to actually fill out details about the extensions. And this is what all data migration is about, right? Extension, let me add details about the extension owner. So this could be some John. We can assign a DD number if John needs. Um, then we can modify the plans we would like to assign to John. And this is again the concept of CloudPBX packages, and the order can control what products and add-on products are available to the customer, right? So you understand, one by one, you can create all extensions and proceed to creating hunt groups. We even implemented assignment of DAD numbers to hunt groups, which is not yet available in native PortaSwitch interface. So for instance, we can create sales hunt group and even enable call queue for it directly from here. So you see, you don't really need to have much knowledge of PortaSwitch to activate the service, to immediately include participants. Here we go. And last step, which is also, it's optional, you can configure your auto-attendant picking the main number, uploading menus. I have some file to upload for demo, right? Then you can customize your working hours and whatnot. And voila, we are ready to provision our first Cloud PBX instance by hitting complete. I'm now provisioning company called Flowers. Takes a while to get you to the summary page where we are able to see, yeah. So you see the results of all steps. All done. Now let me go to PortaSwitch instance and find this customer Flower. The good news is that it has been successfully created, and we already charged them probably for the first batch of DAD numbers. You see the balance. Then I'm about to show to you that we provision the details from the order, right? You see all the details, and even assigned the representative who will get their commissions. So this customer is done. The only thing which remains for us is to show to you that we already activated auto-attendant for them, assigned two selected DAD numbers, and even created an extension for John, right? Okay, all done. Right, now let me go back to the presentation and emphasize the benefits that you're getting from using the new tool. For the first scenario, you can first of all use your own order management and offload this difficult task of cloud PBX provisioning to resellers, junior personnel, or even customers themselves. This will allow you to increase service use due to faster launches and shorter time to market. And last but not least, you're able to control cloud PBX packages, right? Then demo time for the second scenario where we are about to provision a new cloud PBX from a template. Now let me initiate new provisioning workflow. So we're starting from scratch from here, right? But this time we are about to create a customer almost from scratch using a template, right? So to do this, to use a provisioning template, you need to authenticate yourself, and this UI uses your PortaSwitch administrator web credentials. So I'm allowed to sign in to use the provisioning templates. You can create your own provisioning templates whenever you feel your customers can be grouped in some using some criteria. For instance, here we're using two templates like small, medium enterprise with default product silver and up to 10 extensions, whereas enterprise has up to 50 extensions, which is something I'm about to use. So let me create the order using this template. And I'm going to create a new customer record, which is not yet existing in PortaSwitch. And here I'm able to provide like customer details, first name, last name, company name could be Spring Bank somewhere in New York. Okay. Right. Looks good. Then the rest looks very similar, where you can select numbers from the inventory and reserve them. Now let me actually pick a number. Okay, and of course I can add more if I need to, select in other areas. And then most interesting part, you see, since I used the template for enterprise, it already created 50 extensions using the template, which defines the pattern for extensions, assigning a certain plan, which can of course be edited. For instance, if Mike needs a different plan, if Mike needs a different add-on set, we can customize that for him. We can assign that chosen deity number. So, but anyway, imagine how long it would take you to, create all 50 extensions in PortaSwitch one by one, right? Now let me continue and proceed to ring groups, which also configures up to 5 hand groups using the template variables, using the ring group number pattern. Again, this is customizable. And so this could be like knock, where all people are receiving calls in a certain order. Okay, let me save the changes and continue and hit complete to move you to the summary page. Right, it takes a while. Just remember, we are creating 50 extensions in the background. So while we are actually here, we can see the created company, right? Probably should show all the extensions added there, right? Here you go. What I did want to show, we even generated the web credentials. Let me actually reset them so that I'm able to log in on the customer behalf and show you what they will see in their CloudPBX instance. So we are now able to see those 50 extensions and even assign DAD numbers to mic extension and all ring groups. So you see cloud provision process is almost immediate, right? Which is really good news. Before we move to the third scenario, let me jump to the benefits. So what does it give to you with respect to the second use case? First of all, it requires fewer mouse clicks to provision big enterprises. You can use customized templates for various segments like small, medium enterprise, professional, and whatever packages you can come up with. And the user interface is easy to use and very intuitive and does not require much knowledge of PortaSwitch or experience, so you can offload this to junior personnel, right? Probably logical question would be, what if we change products? What if we change requirements for templates? How will that tool handle it? And this is where I'm going to pass the microphone to Sergey, so he can explain this part on his own, right? So I'll stop the screen sharing and pass the mic to Sergey. Sergey, will you please be able to accommodate for the changes, since we're just deployed a new product at the market called call screening, and we would like to deploy a new template for it?
Sure, I will do. Hello, everyone. My name is Sergey. I've been with PortaOne for more than 15 years already. Really old guy. Let me share my screen. Yeah, I'm going to represent an engineering point of view in my short session here. Of course, I'm going to help Mitro, assist him with his request. But before that, let me just quickly overview the flexibility we have under the hood here. So I personally built this app using Delboomi, a low-code workflow automation platform. Just a few notes how I made it, right? I'm using Boomi Flow, which is on the left, and this is where I built a user interfacing workflows. They're interconnected with a Boomi integration in the center, which serves as a backend talking towards PortaSwitch application. You may recall from previous webinar, we're already using Boomi integration to synchronize contacts and transaction data between HubSpot, PortaSwitch, and Xero. Here we use Boomi integration to query and reserve PortaSwitch inventory resources like DIDs, and of course, provision service accounts in PortaSwitch. You're not limited to PortaSwitch integration only here. The framework we built can be actually expanded and to streamline and thus save in operations. You can integrate with your CRM, accounting, order management system, credit waiting, agreement or quoting to number portability systems and ticketing. So quite a universal framework actually for this, right? And now I want to show you how it looks like from the low-code point of view. So this is Boomi interface where I built those flows. I have a subflows which I orchestrate. Of course, I need to manage authentication, prepare order, configure customer, configure DIDs, extensions, complete provisioning, and this is all orchestrated for this pre-provisioning main flow. Let me show you this. Yeah. So Dmitry, as an end user, is actually traveling between these shapes according to the errors and rules associated with them. So he starts here, then he got authenticated here. The tool prepared order for Dmitry, and then we travel upwards to configure customer, configure DIDs, and then we land Dmitry on a home page from where he can travel back to fine-tune some stuff in DIDs or customers. So we have resume errors, as well as he can continue provisioning, managing ring groups, extensions, auto-attendant. And when he's done, he clicks complete. So he travels here to complete provisioning. Right? So Metro, I'm gonna implement the adjustment that you request. So it's normal that we just add one more template because we launch new product or because we to fine-tune something in as our business evolves, right? So let me find this value holding our templates data. It's called provisioning of the templates. Let me edit it. It is a list. I'm gonna click +1 and scroll down to the end to add one more entry to this list. So let's get this data and one more template to choose from. All right, so it was call screening. I'm gonna put a limit here to 100 extensions for this kind of order. It's gonna be based on server product, right? And let's add more data in these templates. Here we can find allowances. This is how we control the order. Maximum number of DIDs, extensions, ring groups, allowed products, add-ons. So we need to allow a new add-on that you allowed on the market screening. And let's pre-select it. And we also need to allow a server product. Server product. I kept auto-generation empty here. You could see how it works. We can improve experience of Dimitro by adding some pre-selection, like DID country will be pre-selected for us. Product name will be pre-selected for us. And for example, a ring group pattern. And in case Metro would like to create new customers using this template, where we also can put some defaults into this templates like country, credit limit, currency, customer class, and the initial name that we created customer with. Yeah, I think I'm done. So I'm gonna save this value. This way I updated this flow, but the change is not there yet. It's not available for Metro. I may want to build and run this version of the flow like this and verify. And when I'm done, when I'm happy how it works, how it behaves, I want to it, right? So it's going to be all screening. Publish. And now it's available for operations in production. As you can see, that was a fairly simple thing, and I actually don't have to be an engineer to fulfill such requests. I believe these are basic administration skills. But sometimes you may want to involve some engineering resource, of course, in case you want to customize this flow in more advanced manner, like for example, add an integration with your local number portability. I often asked if this is actually a build tool or documentation tool. Well, it looks like both, actually. So I'm actually doing a building right here, like this. I drag and drop the shape and then give it some meaningful name, notify customer, and then connect it. So for example, I want to notify customer after provisioning is completed, right? So as an engineer, I must say that I found this tool an easy tool to do code from scratch, and moreover, I think it's very easy to customize as your business evolves. So you're going to have also you're going to have changes as you evolve. On the contrary, I can imagine myself analyzing 5,000 lines of traditional code, trying to understand how it works and how do I customize. With Boomi, because it looks like documentation, I find it way easier to understand and read this code. I think I'm done today, and thank you very much for being with me. I now want to pass the microphone back to Dmitry so he can try this new template. So Dmitry, you're welcome to.
Thanks. Cool. Thanks for developing this new template for me. Now, let me reshare the screen and go back to the demo part. Right. So it's time for demo of the third scenario, which is provisioning CloudPBX services for an existing customer, right? Let me actually move you to already familiar user interface. One more thing before we jump to provisioning the existing customer. You remember that we already did a demo or a webinar on integration with CRM systems like HubSpot, where you can create companies in your CRM which are provisioned directly to PortaSwitch, Portabilling, and then you need just to activate PBX services for them. Let me actually create a new company. I'm trying to onboard Porta1 this time, creating a new record from CRM system. Right. All I need to do is to enable sync between the CRM and PortaSwitch. And to do this, I need to slightly modify two properties. One is called business unit association, and another one would be sync towards Porta billings must be set to yes. So this is something we already showed to you. So saving the changes should create this customer on our demo environment. Let me actually jump to customers and see if it has been provisioned. Yeah, there you go. Should be there. Okay, cool. And now what we need to do is to provision and activate CloudPBX services for the existing customer record from the UI. Like before, I have to log in using my credentials. We can also change the skin for the UI if you prefer some dark colors, if you will. And then, probably I need to initiate a new request, Sergey, for the new template to become visible. Right. Let me do this. Yeah, there you go. So you see the template Sergey just created. Okay, I am about to create this order, and use an existing customer record for this provisioning. And what I do here is I'm looking for Porta1 from the list of already existing companies. I'm picking that customer record we just provisioned from HubSpot. And the good news that, let me skip this one. Oh, probably it's, yeah, it's taking us to the following steps. And the good news that Sergey just enabled this template to do a simple upload from a CSV file. Luckily, I have a list of people working in the same department where Sergey and I work. So you see the file has just been parsed, and you get all people from project management department of Porta1 whom we are about to add as extension owners to your PortaSwitch. Right, validation. So let me import all of them in one go, right? Again, if you need to edit some people to allow them, for instance, international calling, it's also allowed, right? Let me continue. And probably this is it with this CloudPBX environment. Let me complete the provisioning. And while extensions are being created, I am about to register. Yeah, everything's done. I'm about to register 2 soft phones for the extensions we just added. Right, and I should be able to make an immediate call to Sergey extension from mine. Right. Voila, as simple as it is. So almost immediate service activation, and I was able to make a successful call between the 2 extensions of Porta1 company. Now let me go to the benefits you're getting. So let me remind you that you're able to still keep on using your own CRM, which triggers customer records and creates corresponding customer records in your cloud or in your PortaSwitch. Thus, you're still able to activate services for existing customers. If one day your data customers sign up for CloudPBX, go ahead and use existing customer records, activate services for them. And another thing which we implemented was the bulk import. This time it was a simple upload of extensions. Of course, this can be customized using PortaSwitch API. If, for instance, you need to provision some more fields for each extension, I know one of the questions is, are we able to assign certain CPE profiles for phone lines so that zero-touch provisioning? The answer is, as long as PortaSwitch API allows you to do this, it's all possible, right? Probably this is it about the demo part, right? And I'll stop screen sharing and passing the mic back to Klaus. Thank you for the time in the demo, Klaus.
Thanks so much, guys. That was very, very helpful. Much appreciated. So before we jump into the Q&A, and then I would imagine there will be some questions. Some of you have already started asking a couple questions here, which we're going to answer in a few minutes. I just wanted to do our second poll here, this time only with 2 questions. First question being, do you use or plan to use any quoting order management system that stores the detail about what customers' CloudPBX would look like? So in terms of number of extensions, DID numbers, and so on. So how is that currently done? Does your sales team negotiate every new contract? So it's very different for each customer. Is the order, how you do it right now, is it automatically provisioned to activate the service after payment is made? Or do you just capture the order automatically, but then provision the PBX manually? How do you do it? So I see answers coming in. Thanks again so much for voting. So I'll leave this slide up here for just a few extra seconds for you to, I know it's a little bit more text than normal, so I'll leave it up here for you to read through. And then the second question as part of this poll, what does your cloud PBX provisioning process currently look like? Have you built your own portal with our API? Do you have your staff or resellers use the existing self-care that we built? Or do you use maybe some scripts that you've gotten from PortaOne support to import the CloudPBX extensions? Of course, there could also be another way. So if there is, obviously, please feel free to share with us. Okay, so we see here that for the first question, the majority of you, it's a very manual process, and sales team negotiates actually new contracts with prospects. So it looks like PBX, Cloud PBX environments are quite distinct and quite different between customers. That's an interesting outcome here. And then for the second question, it seems it's very much, so I'm ending the poll here in a second and share the results with you. So it seems it's very equal between those of you that build your own portal with our API and staff resellers using our own self-care. So again, very, very interesting, but it does reflect also what I've seen and I've heard from customers as well. So I'm going to end the poll here and share the results with you if you're interested in it. One question that I've already seen and then answered, and so if you're interested, obviously, in the recording of today's session, we'll make that available sometime next week. Which will include also the results of the polls. So if you're interested in that, I'm happy to share that, obviously. Not a problem at all. And all right, so let's move on to the actual Q&A section. So before, feel free to start asking your questions. We'll try to get through them as much as possible. But maybe also to give you a little bit more background here. So of course, we're very aware that all of it, what we're shown today, you can program with the API. Of course, it's needless to say, if you have development resources, if you have developers that know our API, you can of course build all of that, and you can build your own portal, as many of you have already done. What we believe this wizard fills is many of you that we've spoken to, they sometimes are challenged to find the right developers, and then they ask PortaOne if we can help you with developing a portal and so on. So we feel this wizard built in a very low-code visual way very quickly can fulfill a very important need. It gives those of you a way to do things automatically if you don't have the resources or developers to build your own portal. And so it fulfills that very pain or challenge that many of you have voiced. But of course, again, if you know the API, if you have developers, of course, it's not that different from that building your own portal. All right, so let's go through some of the questions here. So one of them is whether this tool will work with only on-premise, or will it work with on-premise installations or only cloud installations? And then we can definitely answer that it will work with both. It doesn't matter whether you use PortaSwitch in the cloud or whether you have PortaSwitch on-premise. It does not matter. In terms of the maintenance release, the minimum starting point. So first of all, You will not have to upgrade your platform in order to use this tool. So it is available as a separate app, which will be made available via our iPass. I believe, Dimitri, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was MR75 that we recommend as a minimum starting point, correct?
Yes, since the API has been stable since, but we do not expect like too many changes between neighboring releases either.
Okay.
Yeah, but 75 has been stable and it's recommended.
So if you're on an older release than 75, the tool may still work for you. Just reach out to us and we can check for you in details whether it's possible. Now there's a question here about number porting, and I think that was one of the expected topics for questions. So Dimitri, if you could quickly cover that.
Sure. Like it is expected with almost 90 countries where we have presence, number porting frameworks differ, and these cases all should be handled on a per customer basis requirement. Like requirements come, we analyze what's available in that country, and you can implement yourself an integration with a local number portability framework, or we can do this together with you as professional services. Unfortunately, we are not able to show you any flows right away because, like, again, should be discussed separately with each operator because countries' requirements vary and implementation will vary too, right?
Great, thanks so much. There's a question here, which CRM platforms we can integrate with. So I'll answer that on my end. So first of all, we'd have to look at what kind of integration is expected, but if I presume the question is around the integration similar to what we've shown you here today with HubSpot. From that point of view, pretty much any CRM that has an API can be supported. We will need an adjustment, obviously, in the Boomi integration workflows that can be done either by your team yourself, so you can get access to the Boomi tool. There's many resources and training material available on the Boomi website for you to do that yourself, and we would actually welcome that very much. We'd also be happy for us to do that for you as a professional service, but pretty much any CRM can be quite easily supported without a lot of development effort. And maybe Sergi, just a question to you. Let's pick a CRM like Sugar CRM. Roughly, how long would you expect to build one-to-one the same that we have with HubSpot? How much would you think the adoption would take?
Yeah, I think, for example, I'm using query endpoint. I'm using create endpoint. A couple of queries, so it's a couple of days. Say one day per endpoint that I'm using.
Okay, so that's obviously one day, or let's even say a couple of days, dramatically different, obviously, than as if you were to actually code in the third-party API and try to build it from scratch and develop it. So that's good to hear. Thanks for answering that. There's another question here. Is this CloudPBX built into Portal 1 like a customer self-care portal? So just to kind of clarify maybe the role this onboarding wizard plays within the ecosystem of solutions. So Portal 1, we obviously have our core platform that allows you to offer the CloudPBX services to customers. As part of that, we already have an existing self-care portal that is typically used by customers. We're currently in the process of redeveloping this, and Dimitri, so this was one of the nice bonuses for those of you that are waiting for the new CloudPBX UCaaS self-care portal. Dimitri actually showed us today the first few screens. So this is coming along very nicely, and we'll have that hopefully available very soon. So this is the self-care portion. But the self-care portion is obviously aimed towards the actual customer, so to the enterprise or the SMB that you're selling the service to. This tool here that we've seen today is very much complementary, and it's aimed towards the provisioning process. So, and again, to summarize, that provisioning process could obviously be handled by your team, or you could pass it off to resellers, or sometimes even in a self-care capacity to customers. So we see the self-care that we're currently revamping and this onboarding wizard is very much going hand in hand. Not everyone will need both, but I do think the majority of those of you might find an interest to use both of these solutions. Can we talk a little bit about provisioning, device provisioning, Dima, if you could cover that? So there's a couple questions here. Would the end user be able to provision phones too? So I know you touched on that previously with the zero touch. Could you just share with us a bit more how this would work?
Sure. We realized that this should be probably day one requirement where you would like to offload provisioning, I mean SIP device provisioning, as much as possible from the customer shoulders. However, at this stage, we haven't yet implemented selection of available devices from the inventory. But again, like you see from workflows that Sergey was demonstrating, this is a pretty easy job to add a new piece to the whole puzzle and provision data from CP inventory, and assigning CPEs to phone lines should be a fairly easy task. So if you're interested, just let us know, and we'll customize this whole provisioning process up to your business demand, and shouldn't be a rocket science to add new fields to the provisioning process. So the good news that it doesn't require any development, because it's indeed the low code or no code engine, so should be pretty straightforward and fast.
Great, thank you. And that actually brings up a point that I'd like to make here. So the onboarding wizard that we've seen here today is indeed slightly differently maybe to some other products that we've previously had, in a sense that once you sign up to this and once you start using it, you actually receive an instance of what the wizard currently would look like, which means that we very much expect you, or with our help, to customize this onboarding wizard to exactly suit your needs. Meaning you get your own copy, you can modify, adjust it according to your own process, and it will look very different from another customer that might sign up to the onboarding wizard as well. So it's not a product that you buy off the shelf and everybody has the same, because we feel onboarding is so different across the board, across the world, it would not work. And we would get way too many change requests that then wouldn't work for other customers. So it's quite a bit different, that you get the core wizard that we built, but then it's open to modify and adjust as you see fit. All right, so I know we've gone slightly over, and thanks so much for those of you that have time to stick around. There's a couple more questions maybe that we can get through here, so I just want to see. So we answered the ones on the provisioning. There was one question whether call recording would still allow unlimited space, or whether we can limit and create packages to limit the size of the call records. So the onboarding wizard doesn't change currently the fact. I mean, you could obviously sell a package with, let's say, 20 gigabytes of recording space, but we currently would not monitor and enforce that sort of recording space. So if you're interested in that, please discuss it with us, and let's find out how difficult of a change it would be. I imagine it would be quite useful and valuable addition to the platform, but that's not part of the wizard at this stage. Let me just see one of the questions here. The CloudPBX self-care portal. So this is more in regards to the PBX self-care, that it should take into consideration that some customers may not have just PBX services, but also internet services. So yes, I mean, we're fully aware that the current self-care that we have has a lot of limitations, and that's exactly why we've taken the steps to redevelop self-care and not try to have a single self-care to try to serve everybody, but rather have focused self-care. So CloudPBX self-care is one of the first ones. There will another self-care coming up later on with M2M IoT focus. So we very much realize that. So if you're concerned, or if you feel your needs aren't quite being met yet, please talk to us directly, and we'll be happy to explain further what the best solution might be. Okay, so it looks like we've managed to answer most of the questions here. If you have additional questions, of course, you can always reach out to us at sales@porta.one, or our old address of sales@porta1.com obviously still works as well. So if you have a question that you maybe remember after the session or when watching the recording, please reach out to us. And once again, thank you so much attending. We'll make the recording available sometime next week, and we very much hope that this tool can save yourself and your staff time, and allow you to serve your customers much faster. Great, thanks so much.